Okay, now because it would be incredibly boring for me to go outside and paint all these models, or spray can them all rather, here's one I've done earlier, and actually I've already gone over and applied Scorpion Green to it. Let's remove those so you can see them. Now, this is like the first step. Once you've got them all like in a nice even coating of black, they normally take a couple of hours to dry, so don't be tempted just to pull them straight in after you sprayed them. You'll either gas yourself or you'll look like an idiot because you'll be painting on runny paint. So yeah, right here you can see I've already used Scorpion Green to highlight all the areas of flesh on the body. That's usually the best thing to do. Is if you can see flesh, or more flesh than armor, do that. If you can see more armor than flesh, do that. Basically just paint the bits you can see most of in your most used color. So in this case, Scorpion Green, really watered down. Again, that's another point I can't stress enough. Water down your paints. Standard Citadel paints are not runny enough, because you want to be able to get into all these little cracks and everything. And you can see where it kind of lights up a little bit more. That's where it's pooled. So where it pools there, you don't need to worry, because that won't be on the final model, but it really helps to bring out the detail so that you can see where you need to plan for. And as I mentioned in the composited bit, well, me talking next to the Kroot, you can see all these points and everything really clearly because of the musculature of them. It's kind of knobbly and everything. So, after you've done that, we move on to the next step, which is the first coat of bleached bone. And just a word of warning, this looks kind of bad. Where you put the first coat of bleached bone on, you will still be able, hang on, I'll get that into focus, there you go. It will look kind of greyish because you'll be able to see some of the black under it. That's good. You need to water it down enough so that you can see that. Otherwise, you've got a problem, because when you come to put the inks on later, you'll be painting over a perfect off-white background and it'll look weird because real flesh isn't a perfect colour. Right. Next step, and I will go over some of these in detail, by the way, like I will actually paint these in front of the camera for you. Next step is to put your leather on it. So, you know, any armor or anything, or the next most common part. In this case, I've just washed out some of the graveyard earth and put a little bit of black in, and just gone over all the leathery parts of the model. That's fairly simple. That shouldn't take you more than about 5 minutes just to do that. Next part is the metal coating. Now, a lot of people actually looked at this stage of the model and said, "How can you do metal like that? You've just painted it grey." The point is, I'm going to be teaching a slightly advanced step, which is non-metallic metal. Now, before anyone writes in or puts YouTube comments and says, "You're rubbish at non-metallic metal," this was actually my first attempt at it, and I don't think I did too badly. And if you think, you know, you can do better or anything, well done. You're probably correct. So I'm not going to argue that point. Yeah. Also, if any of you are screaming at the camera, "You're doing it wrong. You need to concentrate more on X, Y, or Z," then again, don't actually write it in a YouTube comment. I won't read it. If you've got some helpful advice or anything, shoot me an email. You'll probably be able to find me in there, or post a comment on my actual profile page, because I won't read comments on this video. It'll probably just devolve into Warhammer fag, lol. And yeah. In fact, I'm pretty sure now I've said that, someone's actually going to post it. Rant over. So yeah, grey. Grey on all the metal bits, and a slightly lighter grey on bits you want to pick out, like the blades or grenades on his pouches if he's wearing any. Next part along, you actually start adding the detail in here, and this isn't the model. Oh, it is. Yep, I'm lying through my teeth. This is the model I Hang on a second. This is the next step. You're going to start painting on a little bit of extra bleach bone on all the spines on the body, like picking out details. So whatever detail paints you've chosen, you know, whether they're your earth tones or not, just start to pick out little details on the model. This is where you have to start being careful with your brush application, because if you put a bit too much on, then it'll look weird. Also, if there are places that you have to wash out on the body with a particular color, because we've been using watered down colors, then this is where you do it. So just here, I've actually used a little bit more bleach bone on the shoulder pad, because there's no danger of me wiping anything else out with that now. And a little bit extra on the mouthpiece there. So then you want to start doing the next step, which is a well-known, well, I want to say piece of advice, because it's not really a set-in-stone law, but lots of people tend to do it. And it is really, really adamant. And that is what I mentioned earlier, an ink wash. I've used Devlin mud, as I said earlier, for the variety of reasons, which I talked about earlier again. And all that does is it kind of sinks into the recesses of the model. And I don't know what it is about it, but they call it liquid talent, because it really does bring out all the really nice details on it. Also, you can see I've used a little bit more detail paint to go into the shoulder insignia, the eyes, the quill ring things, whatever they are. And, you know, just kind of gone to town on the detail of the model there. This is the point where you do that. At no point before should you start messing with detail. After you've washed the ink in, that's when you do it. Before, you're really in danger of covering it up with ink or something else. So yeah, details are like the second to last step. The last step is, you know, this is the really well-known technique, which is called dry brushing. Now what you do is, and I will show you this close up so you can see, you take a brush, you put loads of paint on it, and then you slowly wipe down the paint until you can brush it off your hand and you can start to see dust coming off of it. When that happens, you know you're dry enough, and then you just go all over the model. And what you do is you get this wonderful dusty effect, which kind of highlights and brings out all the contours of the model, so you can actually see it in a lot nicer detail. And at arm's length especially, it looks really good. And of course you're seeing it at kind of arm's length now, so you can be the judge on that. I've also done the insignias on the shoulder, and I'll tell you how to do those in detail later. Again, as I'll bring through a metal model here, like the shaper, so you can see how it's different. But when you're doing metal models, there are some slightly different techniques, and I will go over those in another tutorial. But right now, all you really need to worry about is the fact that metal chips easier. So when you're doing metal, make sure you have some kind of varnish handy and spray that on. If you're under 12, again, same rules as before, get someone else to do it. Although I really don't expect someone under 12 to be watching this. I'm pretty sure I didn't care what other people said when I was 12. But yeah, as you can see, you can get a lot more detail out of metal models, and you can really go to town on them, but there are different techniques. So you only use these techniques for the plastic models, and for the metal models I'll cover them in a later tutorial, especially when I paint up those stealth suits later. So yeah, this is your end result. You get nice contoured shapes. You can really see the figures. The metal is brought out even though you haven't actually used a shiny paint, and that's basically it. So stay tuned for part 2 of this tutorial, where I'll go over the actual techniques I use, and well, we'll leave it there.